So why does it always seem like it's the year of the cicada? Doesn't it feel that way? Our vector expert Zach Holbert-Watson is here to explain everything about the noisy critters. Also, we'll learn some simple ways to protect yourself and your pets from ticks. Plus, take a guess at how many mosquitoes the health department collected last year. It's a wild number. Stay tuned to find out. And yes, our guest's name is Zach Holbert-Watson, not to be confused with my co-host Zach Watson. Yeah, not confusing at all. Are they roommates, separated at birth? Find out next on Health is Real. Welcome in, stay a while. Andrew Stinson alongside Angela Ta and Zach Watson. This is Health is Real, podcast from Franklin County Public Health. Coming to you from Memorial Hall in downtown Columbus, Ohio. Angela, how's it going today?
Doing great. Happy to be here.
Happy you're here as always. And also Zach Watson is here. How's it going, Zach?
It's going really, really well because we have an extra special scenario today because I get to ask our guest, Zach Holbert-Watson, how they're doing. How are you doing, friend?
I'm doing fine. I'm doing great.
Yes. Now, I know what many people are thinking. Those names are very, very similar. Separated at birth, ? Yes. That's what I'm going with. I think it's a separated at birth scenario, and I don't know whose parents are actually whose.
I like the idea, though, that the separation that happened, like you were both named the same thing and then separated.
Yeah.
Twins with the same name would not be confusing
In different places at different times.
Yes,
but
yes.
also still somehow.
Separated at birth.
Yeah, the whole thing makes sense.
I think so.
There's no holes in this whatsoever.
Zach Holbert-Watson is here, the Vector Program Coordinator with Franklin County Public Health. How did you get interested in this area of expertise that you have?
I went to OSU. I studied zoology. I was sure I was going to be a wildlife veterinarian. And then 3 years into a 4-year degree, I was like, no, this isn't for me. So I stopped doing that, but didn't have a plan. So a couple... Sure, yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay.
It felt fitting for the moment. Please continue.
So a couple of years later, I wound up as a mosquito biologist, identifying mosquito specimens for Franklin County Public Health's mosquito program. And it was fun, and I was good at it. So I kept with it, and now I'm responsible for the mosquito program and the tick program here.
So you're responsible for the bugs in Franklin County.
Oh.
I mean, don't put that all on me.
That's fair. I retract my statement.
Thank you.
Zach, I don't know if you know this. In the 1990s movie, the original Mortal Kombat, there's a production credit in that film, Insect Wrangler. Would you say that that's you? Are you Insect Wrangler?
I mean, not like directly. I kind of oversee the folks who wrangle the insects.
Okay.
I love that.
Well, I'll tell you what, we have some questions about some of these pests that we want to ask. We have the perfect person to ask. This time of year, I've got to get something off my chest. Cicadas are everywhere, right?
Sure.
Okay. So it seems to me like every year we hear, this is the year of the cicada. Everyone watch out. Every 7 years or 12 years or 58 years is the year of the cicada. And it's always this year. What's that all about? Why does it every year seem like cicadas are coming?
So there are around 3,000 different species of cicadas.
3,000?
Yeah, worldwide.
Whoa.
And most of them, a few individuals will emerge as adults every year. So they're just every year there's like a new class of cicadas, right? But there are, I want to say, 7 species in North America called periodical cicadas, where the entire population has synchronized its emergence. So it's not just like a few individuals here and there, it's the whole group, and they all come out at once, and that's on either 13 or 17-year cycles.
Whoa.
Ohio is cool because Ohio is actually has 3 of those broods within the state. So in 2021, there was, I think, the Great Eastern Brood emerged, and so we had a lot of those cicadas in Franklin County. And next year, there's going to be another brood emergence in southern Ohio. And then a few years after that, there's going to be an emergence for a different brood in like northeast Ohio, the Cleveland area. So the thing about the periodical cicadas that made headlines earlier this year was that there were two broods emerging at the same time that actually overlapped geographically in like a thin band in Illinois. So there were 13-year cicadas and 17-year cicadas both coming out at the same time, and that's cicada Armageddon. And it only happens like a once in a century type of thing.
Oh, cicadas are easily my least favorite bug, but my grandma lives in Illinois, and so I think she was in that band, and so she would send pictures to the family group chat of all of their little bodies everywhere, and I was like, I have to mute this line. I can't look at that. This is so gross. They were everywhere.
So cicadas, are they harmful to plants or anyone else?
So adult cicadas almost don't eat. Like they have functioning mouth parts, but they're so focused on. So in biological circles, we talk about the 3 Fs: feeding, fighting, and mating.
Gotcha.
A follow up. I noticed that one of the last one had an M.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Use your imagination. Zach.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
So cicadas are so focused on that third one, the third F,
The
mating.
Yes.
That they don't super duper do the other two. Wow. They're only the whole population is only out every 13 to 17 years. So like they gotta, and as adults they only live for a couple of weeks. So like they gotta make hay while the sun shines. The way they do feed is they have piercing mouth parts that like they suck juices out of plants, and because they don't eat much as adults, it's actually usually the year before a big emergence that they have an impact on plants. So you might see some stunted growth, or if you've just planted a tree and the cicadas get at it the year before they emerge, it might not do so well. But especially if you're planting natives, those are going to be plants that evolved right alongside the cicadas and are capable of dealing with the stress that they put on them.
Interesting. So you mentioned trees. Is that their particular crop of choice that they? I mean, we're not going to like go decimate a cornfield or something like that. Okay.
So since they have such a long life cycle,
yeah,
they need to focus on plants that have similarly long life cycles. So most cicadas will lay their eggs like right under the bark of a tree. The eggs will hatch and drop off into the ground. The nymphs burrow and they just sit and suck on tree roots for a while.
Wow.
Last point on cicadas, that sound they make.
So it's a mating call.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
That's every male cicada that comes out. They sit in the trees and they've got an organ in their abdomen called a tymbal. It's like a corrugated section of exoskeleton, and they can flex it back and forth really, really fast. And that flexion is the vibration from it is what creates the sound. And then most male cicadas, their abdomens are actually hollow. So the sound like reverberates around in the abdomen, which acts as an amplifier, and that's how they get so loud. That and the fact that there are billions of them doing it all at once.
That's fascinating.
Another bug that we have a ubiquitous amount of here in Ohio is mosquitoes.
Sure.
So one thing that I've always heard, and you can please correct me if I'm wrong, is that there's certain blood types that mosquitoes are more attracted to in terms of, what they're looking for. Is that true or not?
So I hear that a lot, and I'm constantly like scouring research to find out what exactly is and is not true. Mm-hmm. I have not been able to find anything like peer-reviewed and published that says, yes, there is a specific blood type that mosquitoes are attracted to. I also don't know how a mosquito would detect your blood type like from the outside. What has been shown to be attractive to mosquitoes is actually the variance in the chemicals that are on your skin, the things that come out through your sweat. Everybody has slightly different bacteria on their skin as well, and that can have an impact on whether you're more or less attractive to mosquitoes. But yeah, they're smelling the various aromatic compounds that you're exuding throughout the day.
Okay. Well, I'll have to tell my husband because we're usually the ones when we go out. I stand next to him because he gets bitten a lot. I don't. So I'm hoping that like whatever's
Lucky
trying to
you.
come for me just gets redirected to him because that's how it's worked out for a while. But I always told him it's because he had sweet blood, but I have to tell him that's not the case.
The mosquitoes just like the way he smells.
They like the skin and the bacteria on the skin, right?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I never knew that.
Yeah.
Never knew that. Now, when you spray for mosquitoes, is there any possibility that could harm other pollinators?
So it really depends on how you do it.
Okay.
When we talk about spraying for mosquitoes, there are a couple different ways that you can do that. One of them is what's known as a barrier treatment, and that is when somebody like comes out to your yard and sprays all the foliage around your home with a residual insecticide. And what that does is it kind of creates a film on the plants, and then any bugs that land on it will get a dose of that insecticide and could be killed by it. We don't do that at Franklin County Public Health. We do ultra low volume mosquito spraying, and the way that works is we have equipment that is specifically calibrated to create aerosolized droplets of insecticide that hang in the air for about an hour when mosquitoes are most active, and then it drifts down, dissipates, and immediately begins to break down so that it doesn't have any residual effect. By the next morning, it's almost entirely broken down and wouldn't have any impact on bees, butterflies, what have you, that are coming out to begin foraging. So hopefully, no. But in the interest of, continuously improving, always making sure that we're doing what the science says is the best thing, we have partnered with some researchers from Ohio State who are looking at they're actually doing surveys of populations of beneficial insects and of mosquitoes in places that participate in our integrated mosquito management program, and in places that opt out of mosquito spraying, and in places that have their yards treated with those barrier treatments that I mentioned earlier. So they're going to be looking at whether there are differences in the populations of mosquitoes and beneficial insects in those varying treatment classes.
Nice. That's awesome. I'm curious, though. I know we do the spraying here. We have our contractor that we do spraying with, but what else with mosquitoes specifically do we do at the health department?
I'm so glad you asked because so spraying is absolutely like the most visible part of our program, and it is really important to be able to have that for when we do have West Nile infected mosquitoes, so that we can be responsive, get out there, and kind of knock them down before they make someone sick. But it is a really, really small part of our program. For every hour that's spent spraying, we spend probably 2 to 3 hours out in the field looking for sources of mosquito breeding that we can treat to prevent those mosquitoes from becoming adults that fly around and bite in the first place. We also do a ton of mosquito surveillance. So we have about 150 mosquito traps that we set all across the county every week. We test any of the vector mosquitoes for West Nile virus, and we keep a close eye on total counts of nuisance mosquitoes, especially the tiger mosquito and the eastern treehole mosquito. So yeah, a lot more to it than just spraying.
Yeah.
And as you're separated at birth sibling, I feel comfortable with asking you this. And you know, because we know each other so well, that doing social media for the agency, one of the things that constantly always really pikes people's interest is when we release numbers and stats about how many mosquitoes we captured, and it always leads to at least like 5 or 6. Like, what are you doing with those? hey, wait a minute. What for? So you explained the what for. But I'm curious, do you remember a ballpark number of how many mosquitoes we collected for examination last year? Or did we?
I know that so far this year, we've collected about 30,000 of the vector mosquitoes and about 9,000 of the nuisance mosquitoes.
Wow.
Last year, I think our totals were around 80,000 of the vector mosquitoes and maybe about 6,000 of the nuisance mosquitoes.
That's
and
incredible.
those are not like records by any means.
Just as a point of clarification, like you've been saying vector mosquito and nuisance mosquito, can you just define those for us and then also maybe talk about how, like, maybe you collected 80,000 vector mosquitoes, but how many overall did you get? Like what percentage of the overall collected mosquitoes was that 80,000?
I think for most folks, a mosquito is a mosquito is a
Right.
mosquito, right?
Right.
But there are actually a couple thousand different species of mosquitoes worldwide. There are about 60 that occur in Ohio, and there are about 24 that we commonly see in the Columbus area. The reason that's important is because not all mosquitoes can transmit disease. The mosquitoes that transmit West Nile virus in our area are primarily those in the genus Culex. And that's what I'm talking about when I say vector mosquitoes.
Okay.
Mosquitoes in the genus Culex. The common names are the northern house mosquito for that. And then when I talk about nuisance mosquitoes, that's mostly mosquitoes in the genera Aedes and Anopheles. So the tiger mosquito, the eastern treehole mosquito, those are both Aedes mosquitoes. And then Anopheles mosquitoes, maybe folks have heard of. They can transmit malaria, but we don't have malaria in Ohio right now.
Okay.
So, I mean, I want to emphasize right now.
Right.
Maryland didn't have malaria last year or until last year.
Ooh.
But
now they do?
last summer, there was, for the first time in like 20 years, locally acquired human cases of malaria in Texas, Florida, Maryland, and Arkansas.
Oof.
As far as what percentage of the mosquitoes we catch are the vectors that we're most concerned about, it's always like a huge majority. And the reason for that is because of the way we target those mosquitoes. I mentioned that we set about 150 traps every week. 60 of those traps are specifically designed to catch Culex mosquitoes. The other traps are just kind of generalists that will catch whatever is out and flying. And that's how we get a measurement of like what nuisance mosquitoes are out.
That makes sense.
Now, we also wanted to talk about ticks a little bit. Is there a particular season that you expect to see ticks more, or is it more of a year-round thing now?
So until about 20 years ago, it would have been spring and summer, and that was it. For a really long time, the only tick of medical importance that we had in Ohio was the American dog tick. That's probably the one most people are most familiar with. They're relatively big as far as ticks go, and they're only active in the spring and summer. They can transmit Rocky Mountain spotted fever, but the infection rate is typically very, very, very low. So we don't have a ton of human cases of Rocky Mountain spotted fever in Ohio, which is great. However, recently we've started to see the black-legged tick in Ohio, which is quite a bit smaller, and it is also active in different life stages year-round. So the most dangerous time would, again, be summer, because that's when the nymphs are active, and the nymphs, they're only about the size of a poppy seed. So
That's small.
Oh.
So if they're attached to you, especially if they're attached in a place that you don't routinely look at, which also happens to be their preferred spots to attach, any place that's like kind of dark and sheltered and out of the way, backs of your knees, your groin, belly button, armpits,
Your toes.
between your toes,
Ooh.
yeah. And those are what I would be most concerned about, those black-legged tick nymphs, because they can transmit Lyme disease, and we don't have a ton of great data on infection rates locally, but we have reason to believe that they're significantly higher than the infection rates of the dog ticks, just based on the number of human cases of Lyme disease that have been acquired in Ohio recently.
And it's important to protect your pets as well.
Yes. You probably could have gotten away with only treating your pets for ticks in the spring and summer in the past, but now highly recommend keeping your dogs and cats on flea and tick preventatives year round. And in fact, I gave my dogs their NexGard just this morning.
So the thing about it, I mean, you can do a preventative for dogs, for pets, right? I mean, you can't really do that for humans. Like, there's nothing we can take that's going to keep the ticks away. So what do we do?
So not yet.
Oh.
There was a drug that was submitted for human trials last year that I believe has the same active ingredient as NexGard, but was formulated for humans. So if that goes well, maybe you could give your dog their NexGard and then take your own, and both be protected from ticks for 30 days. But until then, what I like to tell people to do is, to the extent possible, stay out of tick habitat. Like, don't go running through tall grass if you can avoid it. Don't roll around in leaf litter. I know it kind of sucks not being able to do like your leaf jump.
Yeah, that's my favorite hobby is
Zach,
rolling around in leaf litter.
Zach, don't roll around in the tall grass anymore, okay?
I mean, okay, but I have no promises.
Okay.
But if you absolutely have to, you can make sure that you're wearing long sleeves and pants. That will help create a barrier between the ticks that are out in the world and your skin. And what I always do is I tuck my pants into my socks.
Fashionable.
Always wear long socks. Tuck your pants into them because the ticks they tend to just crawl up. They're not savvy enough to like get to the hem of your socks, turn around and go down, get to the hem of your pants, turn back around and go back up.
They get confused easy.
Yeah, they're not. They're not winning like a MacArthur Genius Grant.
Yeah.
Or anything.
Yeah, you heard us. You heard us, ticks. Y'all are dumb.
Call out.
You can also use DEET or another repellent that has been registered by the EPA as safe and effective for tick prevention. And going the extra mile would be to treat any clothing or gear with permethrin. When you're using DEET, permethrin, any kind of repellent, please be sure to read the label carefully and follow the directions precisely.
Yeah. So to the DEET comment and permethrin, I have friends who are a little nervous about some chemicals. Is there like any natural alternatives that maybe wouldn't work the best, but would still be helpful and maybe make people feel a little better if they were in that headspace as well?
So everything is chemicals, guys.
That's fair.
Like water's a chemical.
What? Since when? Tell me.
And anything can be dangerous if you don't use it properly. So what I would suggest is that first look for products that have that EPA registration.
Yeah.
And you'll be able to tell, like on the label, they have to print it. So it'll say like EPA reg number and then some string of digits. That registration number means that the product has been tested extensively, not only for efficacy, but also for safety. And that if you use it the way the instructions on the label specify, you're going to protect yourself from ticks and mosquitoes, and you're not going to come to any harm because of it. If you're still just like super nervous about using a synthetic product, I might want to remind people not to confuse something being natural with something being good. That's called the appeal to nature fallacy. There are plenty of things that are natural, like ticks, like the bacteria that causes Lyme disease, that are not good. And just because something is synthetic doesn't automatically make it bad either. So please keep that in mind. If you still are just adamant that you don't want any synthetic products, you can look into oil of lemon eucalyptus, which is EPA registered, has been tested for safety and efficacy, and is also just a plant extract.
Gotcha.
I've heard a lot of people talk about like essential oils and blends thereof. So I would be very, very hesitant to buy anything that listed those as active ingredients because they're not regulated. You don't know for sure what's in them, and they also haven't been studied. So we don't actually have any good published scientific data saying that these things will work.
Citronella plants?
So citronella oil can be an effective repellent for mosquitoes. I'm not sure if it's been checked for ticks, but it has to be applied directly to skin. Just burning like a citronella candle, that won't repel mosquitoes any more effectively than burning any kind of candle. You'd have to rub the citronella oil directly into your skin. It also doesn't last very long. You'd have to reapply probably every 30, 45 minutes. When you're comparing that to something that lasts up to like 6 hours, I know I would much rather just do it once.
So, just to review really quick, the best ways to prevent ticks are to obviously wear sleeves clothing, like long clothing and everything. Don't, go rolling around in long grass. Use proper EPA approved chemicals, right? No jumping in leaf piles. Now, would you recommend can I continue to chase waterfalls? Because I would figure that rivers and the lakes, I shouldn't stick to those.
I was going to say I would recommend sticking it to the rivers and lakes you used to.
But I feel like aren't ticks closer to the rivers and lakes because those are more like wooded areas?
Yeah.
So again, haven't seen any like good published data, but anecdotally, when I'm doing tick surveillance, I find fewer ticks near creek beds and riverbanks.
Huh.
Wow. Okay.
The theory that was presented to me was that since those areas periodically flood, maybe the ticks get washed out.
Interesting.
TLC was talking about ticks the entire time. This is groundbreaking.
That song was like a science lesson, really.
Yeah, they T-Boz, Left Eye, and Chili were just like we're tired of getting ticks, and we're gonna write about it. We're gonna write a song. This is wild. And then my second question. So I know this because I'm gonna ask you a question. I know the answer to this because obviously we're roommates. We live together. We're very close. We know everything about each other.
Best friends.
Yeah, best friends. Separated at birth, live together, best friends, know everything. Is there something like whether it's mosquitoes, ticks, other scientifically, I guess we would call them varmints? Is there anything else that you want the general public to sort of know, or something that you think that is something we're seeing, or maybe changes coming down the road in the future? I don't know, anything really that you want everyone to know about the emergence of these things.
I would encourage people to check themselves for ticks every time they come in from outdoors, even if you were just like gardening for an hour. Do yourself a favor, check yourself when you get in. They're tiny. You almost certainly will not feel them crawling around on you or biting you, and it's very important to find them quickly. Tick-borne diseases, the tick needs to be attached usually for 24 to 36 hours before it can transmit anything. So if you find it quickly,
Really?
So if you find it quickly, you've reduced your risk exponentially.
Wow.
As far as like things that I personally am worried about that are on the horizon, I'm real worried about Aedes aegypti, the yellow fever mosquito.
Oh no.
So it's not in Ohio right now. The reason it's not in Ohio is because it can't survive our winters. Climate projections say that is going to change, that it could happen by like 2050, that Ohio winters are no longer cold enough to prevent Aedes aegypti from establishing in the state. Aedes aegypti, called the yellow fever mosquito, it can transmit yellow fever. It can also transmit dengue, chikungunya, Zika virus, a whole host of things. None of those are in Ohio right now, but like it could just be a matter of time. Aside from reversing global climate change, there's
let's do that. Let's go for that one.
I mean, ideally, right? There's not a ton else that we could do to prevent that. So that's what I'm worried about.
Yeah. I listened to another podcast.
Yeah.
I know.
Wait, there are others?
Apparently.
Since when?
You didn't wait. This wasn't an original idea?
Listen, this is I'm shocked. I'm as shocked as you are. We didn't talk about this at our place that we rent.
Y'all got me here under false pretenses.
So sorry. Please stay.
Don't go.
Do we have a sound effect of a door slamming?
Yeah,
and,
just
like,
yeah,
tires screeching?
We don't. We
Oh.
need to get one of those.
On the other podcast I was listening to, they were talking about dengue fever and how it's out there. It's really out there in a lot more places than it's been in the past. But the part of the podcast that really stuck out to me, which I guess I didn't think about, is that if a mosquito or if someone gets sick, because a lot of that stuff can also spread through travel, right? Someone goes somewhere, gets bit, comes back home, and you would think, okay, well, that's probably the end of that. But if a mosquito at home for them bites that person who is infected, then that mosquito can now carry that illness to everyone else around them that the mosquito decides to bite. Is that real?
Yes, that is real.
That's so scary.
And that's one of the ways that dengue becomes established in new places.
Wow.
So I believe Florida and Arizona for the past
Texas.
few years have all had several locally acquired human cases of dengue every year. I want to say it's like actually established in those places now.
Wow.
And, there but for a couple degrees on a thermometer go we.
Yeah. Well, okay, let's not end on a fearful note, though. I mean, so there's a lot of stuff out there, but we also, it's good to be outside. We have a bunch of other programs at the health department that promote being outside and being active. So how would you recommend balancing, being proactive against the illnesses that are potentially out there from the vectors, but then also still going outside and enjoying the beauty that nature has?
Yeah, and I don't want anybody to come away from this thinking like, oh man, I gotta shut myself
Yeah.
in my house
Please
and
don't
lock
be a
all the doors
shut-in.
and windows. I absolutely want everybody to go out and enjoy enjoy our lovely parks, and we have some really great trails
Yeah.
in Columbus. Just like put on some bug spray first.
Okay.
Like if it's not 100 degrees out, wear long sleeves and pants. Get like a nice linen outfit that
yeah.
keep your long sleeves and pants and still be relatively cool.
Yeah.
As long as you're not going to give yourself heat exhaustion by wearing long sleeves and pants, do that. Wear repellents. And for ticks especially, make sure that you check yourself.
Yeah.
Every time you come in, check your kids. I thought check your wives, check your kids.
What a great
Am I
cultural
dating
reference.
myself?
No, that was great. It's okay.
Both Zachs are laughing hysterically at that. There must be a Zach thing.
We make this joke all the time at our place we rent. We also made a decision recently that it was a big decision, but we decided to open up the apartment to another tenant. So we've had another Zach Watson move in. There are 3 of us now.
Okay. What's the scoop on the third one?
People say all kinds of things, just like, oh, are you 3 brothers, and why have you done this to yourselves, and you should move out. And we don't really take any of that seriously. We were separated at birth, but this third Zach, he's not separated at birth. He comes from a completely different state altogether.
You just found him.
Yeah, actually, that is more like it. We did find him. We put an ad out on Craigslist. And we were just like in search of other Zach Watson, and there he is.
This is all news to me.
Well, Zach Holbert-Watson, Vector Program Coordinator here at Franklin County Public Health. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
Thanks for inviting me. This
Yes.
was fun.
Yes, thanks. See you at home.
See you soon.
Thank you for listening to the Health is Real podcast from Franklin County Public Health. We want to hear from you. Let us know your thoughts at fcph@franklincountyohio.gov, and be sure to follow us on your favorite social media platforms. And did you know that we offer vaccine clinics and education throughout Franklin County for both children and adults? Talk to a public health nurse to ask questions, or schedule your vaccine appointment by calling us at 614-525-3719 or email shots@franklincountyohio.gov.